G'day there. You're watching the Aussie BIM Guru. Today I've got two videos on the channel. One of them is a brief technical demonstration of a add-in for Revit, which is NonicaTab Pro. I did look at Nonica earlier on the channel during this year, and had a look at an earlier release which didn't have as many features, but there are some really great features that have been added since then. And because of this, I've decided to build my own Aussie BIM Guru toolbar for NonicaTab Pro and share it on my GitHub for you. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to access my toolbar, how you can build a script for Nonica and add it to the toolbar as well, and also just how each script functions in the toolbar itself. The toolbar will require you to install some custom packages which are contained in the README for the files off GitHub, but in this case you'll need Crumple, Data Shapes, Clockwork, Rhythm, and Orchid. Some of the nodes don't really get used too often. I think I use Clockwork maybe once and Rhythm a couple of times, but I do use quite a bit of Crumple and quite a bit of Data Shapes. And for all the family functions, I'm typically using Orchid. Anyway, I've really enjoyed using this product, and I hope that you enjoy the toolbar that I've built as well if you're a NonicaTab Pro user. And I do encourage you to try it out for 30 days anyway, just to see if you might be missing out on something good. Anyway, let's dive in. So to begin with, I'll just let you know that you can download and trial Nonica for 30 days for free from the App Store. And you can also purchase it currently at the listed rate here, which is $5 US a month or $50 a year for a single email address or one seat per se. Having said that, it's a really great way to package your scripts, and there's a lot of features that I'll show you in this video. I've sort of shown this on the channel before, but I'll give a sort of a high level summary of Nonica again. But to begin with, I also want to point out that I'm going to be using a toolbar that I've saved to my GitHub that you can download and use as well. So you'll find it in this case under my miscellaneous repo. And if you go in this case to the NonicaTab Pro toolbar, you can just click on that. You can either go to File or just hit the download button, and this should download a zip file. So in my case, I'm using Firefox, so it's just saved automatically. And if I just extract these files to here in a folder, you'll have a README which has some basic installation instructions. I'll show you roughly what you need to do to install it. But otherwise, in this case, I also have just a folder called Aussie BIM Guru. So you're going to want to copy that folder, and you're going to want to find, in this case, the following path. So if you go, once you've installed Nonica, there's going to be a folder in your C drive called Nonica Pro. And typically in this case, under other files, most of the paths that I've set up should work if you just copy the Aussie BIM Guru folder into your C drive under other files. You may also want to include a logo. So in this case, you can always take a logo file such as this one that I've given you, and you want to save that to your My Documents folder and call it logo.png. And that will be the logo that shows up on the user interfaces when these scripts run. That's pretty much all you have to do to set these files up. And once you're in Revit, you can currently see I have the toolbar already available. But what you'll want to do is under the NonicaTab Pro tab, you're going to want to come to Default and pick Settings. And you're going to want to import. And in that Aussie BIM Guru folder, you're going to find this .nonica file. If you open that, it should configure all the scripts and their icons. And at this point, you're pretty much ready to go. So as you can see, each of these icons is a script in principle. And you can also switch between toolbars now, so you get 3 toolbars, which is quite a lot. I've got to be honest, I think it's 11, I think, per row, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. So you get 36 scripts at your fingertips. And what I've done is typically put most of my project-based scripts on tab 1, and most of the scripts on tab 2 relate to families. So I can show you quickly the sort of scripts I've built, but first of all, I'm just going to show you how you can build a script in Nonica format. So I'm just going to make a new Dynamo script, and in this case, I'll just make a script that just tells me the ID of the elements I'm selecting. Really basic little script. So in this case, there's a few custom packages you'll need in order to run my toolbar. In this case, you're going to need, I think, 4. So what you'll need Crumple, Data Shapes, Orchid, Clockwork, and Rhythm. So as long as you have those 5 packages, I should say, where's Rhythm? There it is. Then they're the ones that you'll need. I think I've put it in the README as well. So if you open the README, you'll find those packages summarized there as well. And they'll make sure that you have all the custom nodes you need to run these scripts. So let's say in this case that we want to select a model element. And I'm not going to pick an element to begin with, but I'm going to make this an input. And I'm just going to say, pick something. I'm then going to get the element ID. And what I'll do, I might actually just pick one element for now. And I'm just going to turn that into a string. And I'm just going to want that to show up as a message. So I'm just going to make a UI messenger. And in this case, I'm just going to feed this in as the message, switch to manual mode. And I'm just going to say, in this case, ID of selection. Obviously a really basic tool, nothing too complicated. And maybe at the end, I might want to copy this to clipboard. So what I'm going to do is look for copy to clipboard, and I think this is from the rhythm package. I'll just double check. I've got the Monocle package installed, so I can check that. Actually, it might be, yeah, it's from Orchid in this case. So I'm just going to take that object and copy it to my clipboard. And that will just copy it automatically. Now, I'll leave it like this for now. I'm just going to save this, in this case, to my desktop and just call this sample. Actually, I'll call this show ID. Now, obviously, this would be a really inefficient Dynamo script to always run because you have to open Dynamo Player, open the input, select the element, etc. I'm just going to add this to the third tab, so the Gamma tab, which has some room for scripts that you want to add. If I set up the script in this case to show ID, you can see that the name is the name of the script. You can also change the icon of the script as well. In this case, I'll just pick one of the default ones. But I've also added some icons to the Aussie BIM Guru folder that I'm using for mine. I've given them each like sort of novelty icons for fun. If I select an element, nothing will happen. But what I can do is click on Show ID. It's going to open Dynamo in the background. The first time it does this, it's a little bit slow. It's like Dynamo Player. And now I can go and pick an element. So let's just say I want to check this, apply and run. It's going to show me that, and it's going to copy it to the clipboard, hopefully, as well. And there it is. So a little bit of a shortcut. Now what I can do instead is I can make it even more intuitive. So what I can do is just say, what is my selected element when I run the script? So you can build these things to not just use an input tab. Notice that when I ran this, Nonica actually has like a little inbuilt Dynamo player that shows you these things. So it's definitely like a pretty nifty system. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to say, where is my selection? So I might have to think a little bit harder about this. It's going to get a little bit more complex, but I'm going to say, what is my current selection from Crumple? I'm just going to freeze this node at the end, and I'm not going to pick anything. Now I may potentially sometimes have a list of elements. So I'm just going to pick a whole bunch of elements. And what I might do, I'll do this. I can see I have 130 things at the moment, so it's quite a lot. And I might instead also take the element names. Okay, that. And I might also potentially suppress how much I show. So what I'm going to do is say name plus colon plus ID. And I'm going to put the name first and the ID second. So now I'm going to get a list of things that look like this. So I see their ID. And from there, what I can do is maybe just show the first 5, but send through the whole clipboard. So what I'll do is just take the first number of items, and then also maybe count the number of items as well. So I'm going to count how many items I have. I'm going to take the first, maybe first 10. Take 10 items, convert this to a string. And on the end of this, I might add another item. So I'm building up a UI in this case. And the thing I really like about Nonica is it makes you think more about how you want to build user interfaces. So I try to build much more sophisticated UI techniques in. So I've got the first 10 items. And what I might also do is take away 10 from that. So I'm going to say count. Actually, I don't really want to do that because if I have less than 10, it looks a bit strange. I'll keep the UI pretty simple for now. And what I'll do is have that many items, and I'll say, and I'll put dot dot dot, and I'll plus n plus copied in total. So what I'll do is I'll say this is that many items copied in total as the last line after this, and I'm going to add that to the end. So I'm going to take that item and add it to the end, sorry, at the end of that list of IDs. So I'll get something that looks a little bit like that. So it stops my UI from overflowing too much. And then instead, what I can do is pass through, in this case, the full list, but only show the message to 10 items at the most in that case, and still copy all of them. And if I save this, what you need to do in Nonica is actually just reload the script. Again, so in this case, my show ID script is updated. I can now run the script, and it's going to open up Dynamo in the background because it's the first time. And now what we should see is the updated thing. So it's only got one ID in this. It's showing them all one by one. Okay, yeah, I don't want to do that. So I must have made a mistake here. So it does make you think a little bit harder about your list structure. I think what I did is I fed in a list of elements. I need to actually join those all together as one big string. I am using quite a lot of nodes from my package Crumple. What I'm going to use here is a node called string join plus, which just joins a whole set of strings together. String join plus. In this case, I'm going to take this list of strings, and the separator is going to be the string for enter. So now it's going to make a message that is just one string that looks like this. At the moment, I think I only have one. Yeah, I only have one element selected at the moment, so that's why I'm only seeing that. But the point is it's going to give me one big multi-line string. Okay, so now this should function a little bit more conveniently than before. So I'll set up that script again. And I'll select a few elements, maybe just a handful of them. Run my new script. And now it should go and show me the first up to 10 elements. I've got 22 selected, but then it's going to copy all of them. So you can see that I can create little UIs like that. And then it's went and copied those IDs and names. So you can build really practical little tools that can save you time in a short amount of time. And what I've done is packaged quite a few of them for you to use. I'll run through each one very quickly and just explain what they do. Each tab does have just like an about tab, which just tells you about it and gives you an email you can reach me through. I then have one that takes you to my YouTube channel, just in case you want to go and look up a tutorial that relates to something. And then from there, we're pretty much dealing with utility scripts. So the first one is fairly straightforward. It takes all elements that you're currently selecting in a view, and it marks them up in red. I do this quite a lot when I'm just doing markups for clients, and I want to highlight things in sketches or drawings. So rather than having to go override element, and in this case doing all these things, it's so much easier just to work this way, I find. You can just really quickly mark things up in a particular color. And if you want to reset everything, that's fine too. Just do a marquee, and then you can run this script, reset, which will reset the element overrides applied to the elements you have selected. So this is actually a really handy script just in general. If you find your users are constantly overriding elements, you can just reset them using this script. I've also got a script called warnimo, which will take all elements in the view generating warnings and isolate them so that you can review them in context. So in this case, I can see that there's a wall and a rim separation line overlapping. And now I can go and review them just in isolation. So I find that's really handy just when I'm looking at warnings. I've got a really cool script that I really like called Super Selector. And in this case, I'm using data shapes in order to build a pre-filtered selection. So let's say I only want to select walls, and maybe also I want to be able to select windows and doors. So I'll go next, and now it's going to give me the option to select in Revit, but it's only going to select elements that belong to those particular categories. Notice it's ignoring things that don't meet that criteria. So it's really handy when you just want to select a very particular set of elements in a very busy area of the model. I can go finish, next, and I have those 5 elements available on selection that I've filtered out from all the other elements. So it's a lot easier than doing a big selection and filtering down. I find that I use this quite a lot when I'm working in really big models that are quite hard to work with. The super selector saves me a lot of time. I've got a really fun little tool in this case called Who's Your Daddy, which if you go to a view that has like a call out related to it, such as this section, which comes from a primary view. If I use, actually I think if I have a call out, it's going to work for call outs. So if I have a call out, and then in that call out, I have another call out. Obviously it can be quite hard to track down, you know, which view that call out belongs to. Because if I delete this, this section, yeah, I can't do it because it's all open views. It's going to take out all those call outs in this case. If you're running a script that automatically deletes things, it will automatically delete all those elements as well. Using Nonica, I can actually go backwards. And I can find the parent of that callout. I can find the parent of this callout. And I can keep working my way backwards up the tree until I get back to the primary view. And if I run this, it's now just going to say the view has no parents. I've reached the top. So I find this is really handy in big models when you're trying to investigate which views callouts came from originally. Really handy little tool. I have another tool called region areas. It's nothing too crazy. But a challenge that I often face when dealing with field regions is that you can't schedule their area. So often I want to push that area into another parameter. In my case, I'm just going to add a new parameter for area to field regions or detail items. I'm just going to reload to my current shared parameter file. In this case, I'm going to add the dimension for area. And in this case, I'm just going to add it to all detail items on an instance basis. So now what we can do is push this area into one that we can schedule. So if I run, in this case, that specific script, it's going to find all field regions or masking regions with the option to choose them, and also which parameter I'm targeting. So I'm targeting the area parameter. Apply and run. It's found 7 areas and set them, and there we go. I can now see that that parameter is mirrored across to my field regions. I've also got a script for room to floors. Now you're going to want to be careful with this one. There is what I think is a bug in Nonica currently that I have made them aware of, where you're not going to want to run this more than once from the interface because it will crash in my experience. So in this case, I'm going to say that this is a raised finish, so it's true. I'm going to select this particular room, and I'm going to say in this case that I want to use carpet, apply and run, close, and if I isolate floors, I should find that I've just placed a carpet to the outline of that specific room. So it's a really quick way to place floors. Now I think I already had a carpet placed in there. Yeah, I did. So it's just a really quick way. Let's say I use this one with tiles. So I'll do the same thing again. Room to floor, raised finish, select my room, pick my floor tiles, apply and run, and I can see I've just placed the floor to the extent of the room itself. So a really handy little script. That's actually like almost based on a script I've done on the channel before. As well as this, I've got Revit, which is my batch revisioning tool. So this uses data shapes and lets me pick a revision, which sheets do I want to apply it to or remove it from. And I'll just add them, and I've just added that revision to 7 sheets. I've got an in-place model hunter. So let's say in this case, I've got an in-place model for casework. Maybe I've got a few of them. Maybe I've got one and it's been copied quite a few times. So copy, copy, copy. Let's go into 3D where it's quite hard to find in-place elements. And let's say I'm targeting my in-place casework. I'm going to use place hunter. It's going to ask me which category am I looking at. So in this case, I'm looking at casework. So I'm going to go to casework, run. It's going to go and select all the in-place elements in my view that I can then isolate and review. So I've just went and found all those in-place elements really quickly. I've got a tool called Swinger, which doesn't actually work in this particular model, but what it does is it targets any doors that contain an angle parameter from my shared parameter file, and it can open and shut any doors that do have that parameter available. I don't believe these doors have the swing option in them, so I don't think it's going to open or close. Oh no, it did. It opened a few. So there you go. We can say we open the door and go to 45, It's going to just open them a little bit. So if your doors have the ability to open or close, this can be a really handy script when you're running a program like Enscape and you just want to open up all the doors at once. Let's say you're walking through with a client and the doors are blocking everything. Obviously, it's going to be very jarring. Okay, so if I go to the beta tab, we have quite a lot of fun ones. The first one we have here is the upgraded. This is essentially the bulk family upgrade node from Rhythm. It just lets you target a directory and then upgrade any families in that directory. So you select the directory and run, and it will upgrade all the families in that directory and also in any subdirectories. So I won't run it just because it takes a while when you run it across lots of families, but it's a really efficient node. I use it quite a lot. I think from here, most of the nodes are dealing with family functions, but I also have one that takes you to the Dynamo forums, and also I have one that takes you to the Dynamo primer, and one that takes you to the Nonica website as well. I find I'm using these quite often when I work in Dynamo. It's really handy just to have a shortcut to the Dynamo forums if I want to ask a question. So I've just put them on there to help people. Okay, so let's open a new family. So I have a very custom family standard that doesn't necessarily work too well when I'm starting off a project in a new template. I have a lot of things that come by default with Autodesk. So I have these fill patterns, I have these line patterns, and I have all these materials that I don't want to be present in this particular family. So what I'm going to do is target these styles and convert some of them. So one of my scripts, restyle, will target anything that matches a control file that I've provided, in this case, in the Aussie BIM Guru resources folder. So in this restyling file, which it targets from this path, I have, what is it? Is it a fill pattern, a line pattern, or a material? What's its name, and what's its name going to become after I run it? So this is going to convert anything it finds that matches these names. So in this case, if I run restyle, we can see in this case it's looking for the file to guide this, and if I apply this, it's going to target those styles for renaming. You can see it's found 14 out of 14. And now if I go to fill patterns, you can see that it's found all the viable candidates. Line patterns, it's found them. It's left behind the ones that didn't match. But I have another script to clean those up. In materials, most of them are going to stay in this case, but we did rename the default material. From here, if I want to get rid of them, I can destyle. So if I destyle, I'm just saying get rid of anything that doesn't contain a particular prefix, in this case BG underscore, and I'm going to delete if it's false. So if I apply and run, it's going to go and find pretty much every style it can except for the solid fill pattern because it can't get rid of that. And check it out, we've cleaned it all up and it's ready to be used as a standard family in my template system. So you're welcome to adjust these to suit, or if you're using my content, this might help you a little bit as well. From here, I've got a couple of other things that can be done. So I have what I call parameter jamming. So this is just adding a standard set of parameters from an Excel file. This is very similar to my add shared parameters from Excel workflow on my YouTube channel. But effectively, it's just targeting a set of parameters in the resource file for being added from the current shared parameter file. So I've got my standard set of parameters that I always add to content. And I use this script all the time. It's super convenient. So I run this. Assuming it finds no errors, it should tell you no errors were found. And now the family will come with that set of parameters ready to go. I then also have a script that sets the authoring parameters. So from here, it just has some preset things built into the script, which will do things like tell the company field that it's BIM Guru, the URL that it's my website. So you can stamp this as the author. It also does things like set the date modified parameter, and you can see that it's locked it in using formulas. It's also used my Revit username as the user created. So when I build a family, I pretty much run these 4 scripts to begin with, just to clean up the file if I'm not using a template. Sometimes when I'm dealing with families that have quite a lot of types, I sometimes want to get rid of some of these types. So let's just make maybe 10 types. So I'll get rid of this family 1, and I'll be in type 1. So if you use the DType script, this one is just going to go and get rid of types that you choose using data shapes. So I'm going to pick, in this case, all of them. It's going to retain the current type you're on, no matter what you do, but it's going to delete the rest of them. So I've just went and deleted those 9 types, which saves me a bit of time when I'm cleaning up a family. Even more useful than that is my parameter Blam script. This one goes and just targets parameters I don't want. So in this case, you can see that it's going to give me both the BIM Guru parameters and the non-BIM Guru parameters. Let's just say I want to get rid of all the BIM Guru parameters and maybe I want to get rid of the IFC parameters. Now, some of these you won't be able to get rid of, like Keynote, it's built in, so it will fail for some of them. You can see we deleted 12 out of 13. And I've just went and cleaned up those parameters that we're not using. This can be really handy when you download something like a manufacturer object that has heaps of redundant data that you don't care about. I use the script quite often when I'm cleaning up content as well. And that's pretty much all for the second tab. And then finally at the end, I just have a that's all, folks, just to say that, you know, that's all I've added for now. But I guess you're welcome to add your own scripts if you want as well. Now there's a little Easter egg I've hidden inside the toolbar as well. So feel free to have a look for it when you're using this if you like. But I think, you know, from what I've seen, this has really come a long way. I'm going to make a separate video, which is a little bit shorter, more condensed, just so that Nonica can use it to show people their product. But this was more like a technical demo for the toolbar that you can use yourself now. Of course, you know, use it with care. I'm giving it out just for people to use. I don't really take responsibility if it does anything wrong. So do make sure that you review the scripts, how they work in your model. But for the most part, they should hopefully work quite well. So it's pretty exciting. If you do have, you know, scripts you've seen on my channel in the past that you want me to add to the toolbar, let me know. Usually they have to be ones that are very applicable to lots of different projects. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to put them in a toolbar. But I think it's really great that you can just switch between sets of tools on the fly. I think it'd be great if Nonica gave us the ability to modify what these are called. So this could be like project, family, and something else. But the great thing too is you can actually store more than one set of toolbars. I can import and export different toolbars, so I don't just have to limit myself to 3. I could have 40 toolbars if I wanted to. I just have to be able to import and export them. So in this case, if I go back to my my Nonica file, remember that I added this show ID script. Well, in this case, if I go back to Gamma, we can see that now it's back to the standard. So in this case, you can see it's really quick and easy to switch between different profiles. And it's just a really handy way to package your Dynamo scripts. So I don't actually find myself opening Dynamo that often when I'm working these days. A lot of the tools I use are in this toolbar. So pretty exciting. Definitely recommend that you try it out. It's definitely one of the easiest to use of the options out there. There's quite a lot of tools that do this, but Nonica to me is probably the simplest one to use, easiest to deploy and easiest to manage, especially in a medium-sized company. So there we go. Hopefully you find this a useful product to work with by Nonica, and also just a useful toolbar to implement as well in your daily work. The scripts I've included pretty much reflect very common tasks I undertake as a Revit using BIM consultant, and it saves me a lot of time just having these all available at the click of a button. And I find it easier to work with than using Dynamo Player sometimes as well, because the icons are just so visually immediately accessible, and you can deploy them in sets of toolbars to suit specific tasks. Really great feature. I look forward to seeing more features coming in future. I know the team's still working on some improvements and changes. It's a very stable product now, which is great. Occasionally there are things that do trigger a crash, so I am letting them know when I find them so they can investigate further, but for the most part, very stable. So I look forward to seeing what other people maybe get out of using my toolbar, or just NonicaTab Pro in general. Anyway, if you're not already following the channel, feel free to do so, or subscribing, and I look forward to seeing you in future similar videos. Thanks, take care.